Welcome to REWORK, a podcast by 37 Signals about the better way to work and run your business. I'm your host, Kimberly Rhodes from the 37 Signals team, joined by the co-founders Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansson. This week, we're going to knock out some listener questions. These are ones that got submitted from our new video podcast question request. So thank you for sending those in. The first one is from Andre.
Hello, my name is André. I'm from Brazil. I read your REWORK book. You said a very audacious statement there, which is to ignore the real world and the competitors. I'd like to know if you still think the same. We're living on the age of AI and people are putting AI everywhere, even on places which shouldn't have them. Some years ago, people were slapping touchscreen interfaces everywhere, even on refrigerators. So the market keeps doing that, and I think you probably just ignore those things and keep focusing on customers' problems. I'd like to know if you still think the same, that people can run their businesses by just focusing on their customers' needs and ignoring those fads and fancy stuff. That's my question. I love your show. Thank you.
You can absolutely continue to ignore the competition as long as you don't ignore your customers and what they want. And those two things are occasionally linked, that customers are excited about something that the competition is doing because they're doing something that they want. And you'd be a fool to ignore that. But chasing the competition in and of itself is almost always a mistake. First of all, because you're going to be second. If you're just chasing, you're not necessarily analyzing why is it working. Are you just copying something that is already there? Are you just copying someone else's output without necessarily copying how they're thinking, how they're analyzing things? I think occasionally that can work in commodity markets where people just want a cheaper widget and whoever can produce the cheapest is all that matters. Do you know what? Most businesses that we usually talk about are not like that. Basecamp is certainly not like that. We have not chased the competition when it comes to Basecamp. And I think we're pretty well off for the sake of it. We've been doing this for over 20 years with Basecamp and it's worked out pretty well. But part of it is perhaps your definition of what works out means. Does it mean you're going to beat all your competitors just because you're not paying attention to them? No, it doesn't mean that at all. We've found that with our business, we've built something great, successful, sustainable, wonderful to our employees, wonderful to our customers, but there's a bunch of things or a bunch of other companies that people would define as our competitors who have perhaps more revenue, or they have more employees, or maybe they even have more customers. That's totally fine. But I think it really boils down to, what do you want? Do you want a business where you're putting the best of what you got, your talents and your resources, to work in a way that you see fit and you find inspiring to work on? Then you can certainly ignore the competition. If you are just trying to beat the other guy, then maybe you have to pay a little more attention. We've certainly chosen our path. We've stuck to it. So ignoring the competition continues to ring true for us.
Well, I just have a follow-up because Andre didn't say this in his question, but I kind of get the impression he's wondering, do we feel pressure? Like AI in particular, he mentioned. Do we feel pressure to keep up with that?
I would say that, there's as much pressure as you want to put on yourself. There's always competition. There's always alternatives. There's always new technology. There's always things you're not doing, other people are doing. You have your own costs to compete with. I mean, there's always pressure. So whether or not like the AI age is going to change that, I don't actually think it changes that. It's just another new thing that is the next new thing. But it's not like competition didn't exist before AI. I mean, competition's always been here and always will be. And you don't control them and you don't know where they're coming from and they're not paying you any money. I've always liked this about Jeff Bezos. People are like, should you worry about the competition? He's like, the competition doesn't pay us anything. I worry about people who pay us things, our customers. They pay for things. So I've always liked that too. I don't know. I just get the sense that it's very easy to worry about things, and it's really easy to worry about the competition if you want to. It's this big, huge looming thing, right? But I also feel like in some ways it's a form of procrastination, actually, to worry too much about the competition, because it's a great reason not to do something. It's a great reason to be afraid. And if you're looking for that, you'll find it in that group called the competition.
And I think it's essentially the essence of stoicism, which I'm a big fan of. I think Jason likes it too, that you should focus on the things that you control. The competition and what they do, out of your control. If you're just going to be a follower of that, a paranoid follower of that, an afraid follower in that, what odds do you have of beating them at what they're good at? Seems very long to me. Versus if you focus on what you're good at, the talents that you have, the resources you have, the voice you have, the audience you have, the angle you have, the software that you've built, perhaps, you stand a much better chance of succeeding or not. There are no guarantees. Whether you pay attention to the competition or you don't pay attention to the competition, you may win or lose. There is no magic bullet that you can shoot that's going to guarantee you success in business or perhaps even in life. But at least in business, you know that the odds of going out of business, they're always there. And they're probably better than not.
Okay. This next video question is from Robert. And I feel like, David, you might have something to say about this, especially I've heard you talk about Apple. Let's see.
How you guys doing? My question is, as technology continues to accelerate and digital fluency becomes more and more critical, is the era of the older, seasoned CEO starting to fade? And if so, is our next wave of CEOs going to be in their 20s? Thank you so much.
You guys were in your 20s when you started this whole thing, true?
We were.
Yeah.
And I think what you're describing is the cycle of life. It has always been like this. It has always been that there is a new generation. It's always been that there's been new evolution. But I actually want to question the premise just for a half second here. Technology doesn't move that fast. This is a delusion that people have. Technology moves very slowly. There have been, in my optics, 3 major changes in technology. There's the internet around 95, got very popular, set a tone, still going. Whatever you learned about the internet in 95, the vast majority of it still applies. Even the technology is the same. The HTML page you wrote in 95 will still work today. The skills you picked up then making things of the internet, they still apply today. So that's the first paradigm. The second paradigm was the mobile phone. When the iPhone came out in 2007, it very quickly rewrote everyone's expectation of what a computer was. The primary computer for most people became the one you have in your pocket. That was a big change. And now we're looking at quite likely the third big change with AI. That's 3 changes in 30 years. Now, there's a bunch of other changes that happened that time, but most of them were incremental. They were often irrelevant. They came and they went. They were fads, or they were just part of the fabric. If you're constantly freaking out about how fast things are going, yeah, okay, maybe you are getting old. Maybe it does feel like everything is speeding up, but in reality, it's not really. It feels perhaps so a little bit right now because we do have a major factor with AI that feels like it's on the same level as the mobile phone as at the internet. But again, not that fast. So I think as now an older statesman founder at ripe years of 45, do you know what? I'm not going to do this forever. That's fine. I'm not going to do everything as well as a younger generation. Whoever is 22 years old right now and coming up with something, they're probably going to come up with something different than what I would come up with. They don't have my legacy of experiences and imprints and everything else that I went through. They never went through the .com boom and bust. They don't have those imprints. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't it wonderful that we're going to get something new from new people? I think where people often go astray once they've been in business for a while, they stay young, stay hip. And okay, fine, stay in touch with technology. But if you're trying to outcompete, I don't know, a 21-year-old on everything that they're coming at it with, you're probably going to run out of steam quite quickly. They're going to run faster than you. They're going to have more stamina than you. They're going to have more of all of that. Hopefully you have something else. Hopefully you have some crystallized intelligence. Hopefully you have a little bit of wisdom. Occasionally that wisdom is helpful and you can turn that into profit. Occasionally it's not. And you're just going to miss out and there's nothing you can do about it. So lean back and embrace the circle of life and don't worry too much about it.
Jason, anything to add?
Well, I'm a few years older than David, so I will say that that's all true. It's kind of like, when you have, like your parents might say some like hip word that they heard somewhere. And you're like, oh God, don't do that. that's kind of what this is like. Like, don't try to be what you're not. Don't try to be a 21-year-old if you're 50 or 40, whatever. Just do your thing. There's plenty of room for all sorts of different things. Not everybody needs the latest and greatest everything, cutting edge, whatever. Just do your stuff, provide your service, be kind, be good to customers, take care of your own employees. Like, you can run a business in a lot of different ways. You don't always need to be on the latest and greatest and cutting edge of everything. It's just that's one way to do it. But I think that ultimately it is about being yourself, finding your sort of what's your nature, who are you, what do you like to do, and just do that. And it's probably going to be good enough. And if it's not, it's not. But yeah, you can't be something you're not for the long. You can be that in the short term. You can act a little bit, but it's not sustainable. And your sort of true self is going to show through. And then, if you're doing something that isn't natural, it's not going to last very long, and you're not going to be very happy with it.
I know you guys haven't seen this video, but Robert, who called in, is younger than all of us. So he may be on the other side of this, hoping that the next round of CEOs are in their 20s.
You know what annoys me? I'll tell you this. I get emails from people fairly frequently, like who are 16, who are like, can you give me some advice? And I'm like, fuck. First of all, you don't need any advice. You're 16. Don't listen to anybody. Like, first of all, I can't tell you anything that's worthwhile, and it doesn't matter. I wouldn't have listened to myself when I was 16. I don't know what I'm talking about in your world. And also, you just don't need advice. Just go do something. Go make, if I'm going to give you advice, just go make something. But don't listen to anybody. Just go make something. Like, use your advantage, which is that you don't really know anything. You can also kind of know everything. And what worked before doesn't matter anymore. Just go and go. And it annoys me that people feel like they need to be on this track of getting advice all the time. I just, that whole thing really is starting to really bug me, actually, this idea of people looking for advice, looking for mentors. I kind of get it at some level, but you're better off, I think, just going and making something on your own. And then you can check in with other people later, but don't feel like it's something that's in your way that you can't do until you get, or that if you're 16, you're seeking out advice from someone who's much older than you. They might be able to tell you some things about life, whatever, but as far as your idea that you want to pursue, just go and do your own thing.
This connects directly to one of the most annoying questions I get asked quite often in interview is, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah.
If you, 30 years of experience, how would you distill it down to something that would make an impact on your younger self? And my answer is always, I wouldn't tell myself a damn thing. I would not rob myself of the glory of experiencing things for the first time, of being so ignorant and being so arrogant as we were when we were in our 20s and we thought that we could do everything in a weekend. That is a superpower. No, you can't do it in a weekend, but the belief that you can is what's going to propel the start. And once you get started, you get going. And once you get going, you're going to learn a bunch of things and you're going to figure it out. I think Jason and I, in those early days, really committed to that idea that we wanted to face all of our experiences for the first time, that we did not need a cheat sheet, that it was actually going to be worse if we encountered every novel situation with a playbook written by someone twice our age. How the hell are we supposed to learn anything novel from that? I think a lot of the rejuvenation that we get from new generations is exactly because they don't have the same baggage, is exactly because they approach perhaps the same problems with an entirely new mindset because they're in a different context. That's how you get something new. I hear this all the time in technology. This idea of not invented here syndrome, that this is the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world is if you dare think about a problem that someone else has already solved. What a load of bullshit. You should think about problems that people have already solved because 100 times out of 100, someone has missed something. And if you go back to an existing problem and you look at it from a new angle, and the new angle may just be your age, the new angle may just be you at 18, you're going to see something new. And so often that new vantage is going to give birth to a new solution. And you know what? The market all the time goes like, oh yeah, I thought this was a solved problem, but clearly it's not. Someone thought about it anew. I'm going to buy that thing. Great.
I feel like this reminds me of some of the questions I hear that Gary Vee gets all the time from people who are trying to, at a young age, do something progressive or feel like they're already behind in their 20s. Like, this is all goes into that age is just a number, friend.
Yeah, in fact, you're just so far ahead. If you're just 20, you're just so far ahead, actually, just by the nature of the fact that you don't know things yet. To David's point, like you don't really know yet. That's an advantage. It's a huge advantage. People just miss that, and I get it. I get why people miss that because it doesn't sound intuitive at all in a sense. But I think the fundamental thing is like you wouldn't listen to yourself. You wouldn't have listened to yourself 30 years. I would not have taken advice from myself today if I was 20. There's no way. I'm not going to listen. What the hell would I have known then? Like I'd be like, this guy doesn't know anything. What is he? He's 50. The hell does he know? And whether or not I know anything, it doesn't even matter. It's just like I wouldn't have listened to myself. And I think that's like the right thing to say is I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to figure this out on my own.
I'll say one last thing, which is whatever you can learn from someone more senior, someone more experienced, someone more successful, you can glean that from afar. You do not need to talk to that person. That person, if they're capable of articulating any lessons that they've learned at all, they're already sharing them ad nauseum. That's what we're doing fucking right now, right? If we have a conversation, you and me, audience member, I'm not going to say something that's different from this. There's not like this secret stash of amazing insights that I'm already not sharing with the world. I'm just waiting for you to have a one-on-one with me before I'm sharing. What? That would make no sense at all. I'm sharing everything. I have a lot of bad ideas, maybe some decent ones, and perhaps a few golden nuggets along the way. But you will have access to them from afar. You do not need a one-on-one relationship with anyone to be able to learn the best lessons that everyone in the world have accumulated, because at this point they can't shut up about them. Whatever insights they have, if they're connected to the internet, they've shared them in 100 tweets already, in 25 podcasts. There's nothing novel there. There's just a sour citrus that you don't want to squeeze any further, right? Like, enough. There's enough out there. Just take some of that in, sample a little here, sample a little there, get inspired, and then go off on your own. I never had a mentor, a real life one. I had a lot of mentors in books and in articles and in code from afar, sometimes thousands of years back in history. Sometimes they were contemporaries. I never had conversations with anyone. And the few times I did, like, for example, Jason and I have a mentor relationship of sorts with Jeff Bezos, right? He bought a small slice of our company, and we had some very nice conversations with him along the way. Whatever golden nuggets he shared with us were golden nuggets he had already shared with everyone else. It was a very pleasant experience, and you can get something else and wisdom out of that relationship. You can get confidence, perhaps. That's nice. Like, you have someone important say, go, yeah, believe in yourself. There's something there, okay? It's not wisdom. The wisdom is already there. It's already distributed. Don't wait around for these like secret nuggets. They're not there.
Okay, one more question before we wrap up this episode. This one is a video from Carlos.
How do you encourage new team members, like this could be experienced people, to not get blocked or stuck for a long time and ask questions sooner than later? I typically use the 1 day rule, like do not get stuck for more than 1 day, because I want them to know by themselves, figure out by themselves, I give them energy, and also like so fulfilling of like they got it. But do not get stuck more than 1 day, and encourage them to just ask questions to unblock them and just ask right away. But the 1 day rule is the one that I use. I want to know what other people think.
My answer is kind of that you just notice that there is a dip in forward momentum somewhere, somehow. It may be a product is not moving where you thought it was, and you got to figure out why, and you realize, oh, this person hasn't done something. They're probably stuck on something. There's not like super obvious indications, although we do have these automatic check-ins that people write, and they're supposed to write at least a couple times a week. Sometimes you see some of those missing, and you're like, something's going on here, but that might not be stuck as much as something else. I think it's mostly just about paying attention and caring about like the people you're working with, and paying attention to the work itself, paying attention to the forward momentum on something. And you just kind of notice. I mean, that's my just general sense. You just kind of notice that something isn't quite right, and then you dig into it and find out why. As far as the 1 day rule, that might work. I feel like that's almost, for me, things like that are too rigid. someone might be heads down for a few days. Like, I don't consider them stuck if like what's coming out of those few days is really a lot of forward momentum. So the 1 day thing is a little bit too tight for me, but I do think you just get to notice it over time. But the key is you have to pay attention, and then it's on you. And it's actually like, if you're not paying attention and you don't spot those things to begin with, then you're probably something's actually wrong with you more so in your involvement, more so than someone else is stuck on something.
I'm going to say something that may be a little controversial here. I don't think smart people get stuck. I don't think that's a thing. I think smart people keep going. They may not be going the most efficient way possible, but they're not stuck. They're not blocked, at least not on competence. It's exceedingly rare that I can remember a technical conversation I've had with a programmer who I thought really had great sparkle and a great future, where I would walk in and they would be stuck on this one little thing and I'd say like, boom, 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 and now they're unstuck and off we go. Really rare. This notion of stuckness is at best like a temporary productivity lift. And even when it's that, it's not always a good thing to unstick someone. There's a huge amount of value in getting stuck, in slowing down for a hot second because there's something you don't understand. Why are you not moving forward? Usually it's a source of lack of understanding. Most people can't deliver that understanding to you. There's not like 5 sentences or 2 paragraphs or even a page in most cases on something that relates to competence that I can just hand to you and then you got it, right? It's okay to be stuck. It's okay to be stuck as long as you're applying your mental faculties. What I see and what the problem usually is, you're not stuck because of competence. You're stuck because of circumstances outside of work. You're stuck because of a lack of motivation. You're stuck for factors that do not pertain to the problems that you're facing directly themselves. That's at least what I've seen. When it has been someone who's repeatedly stuck on pure competence, a little bit of a red flag. Doesn't mean someone can't move past it. There's a bunch of things I don't know, and I'm stuck for a hot second. These days, I'd say you're probably better off just asking AI. Like, AI is going to know something about whatever area of competence you're stuck on. May not have the right answer. It may even make up bullshit. But even when it makes up bullshit, at least to me, it brings me just a little further because like it tweaks the thing a little bit and I get it moving again. I get my own brain moving again. And now we're rolling and I'll figure it out, right? But otherwise, if people are repeatedly getting stuck on the competence ladder, do you know what? Something is wrong. They're in a wrong situation. Something else kind of needs to change. One of the things I like to say to managers is like, you're not going to save them. As a manager, someone who's responsible for unsticking someone, you're not going to save him if the stickiness is the competence. You can save them another way. Sometimes people get stuck in how they communicate with others. Occasionally, you can give some redirecting feedback, which is sort of the bullshit we say for like telling someone what to do if they're doing it wrong. That's redirecting feedback. You can give someone redirecting feedback on how they should relate to other people. For example, we have had people who've started at 37 Signals, and they haven't been good at checking in. Jason referenced those automated questions that folks are supposed to answer a couple times a week. And if a couple of weeks go by and that doesn't happen, sometimes people are just not in the rhythm of it. They're not in the habit of it. You can tell them that. They get sort of stuck on not doing that, and you can tell them that. The programming, not so much.
I would add to, I think everything you just said makes a lot of sense to me. I was kind of thinking about it from a different direction. And I don't know what the person who asked the question is looking for, but I think on the design side, people can sometimes get stuck in a loop of polishing something too early or like a loop of perfection at the wrong time. And so that's something I'm on the lookout for because there's a lot of things that just don't matter yet. And they don't matter yet because we're not even sure we're going to keep this around. And so the worst thing to do is to sit around in a loop, stuck polishing something to make it perfect when you're going to throw it out in 3 months because it's just not the right idea anyway. And so at certain points of a product development, you haven't poured concrete yet and you don't want to perfect certain things. So that's an area that I do. If someone's stuck there, I'm like, let's move on. Let's just move on from this. This is whatever. We'll get back to it. Or we won't. but we need to move on from that. So that's another level of this, which is a different angle than David's taking. I think both are valid, but it just depends. I don't know what the questioner actually was particularly curious about.
I think you guys have given them a lot of information regardless. With that, we're going to wrap it up. REWORK is a production of 37 Signals. You can find show notes and transcript on our website at 37signals.com/podcast. Full video episodes are on YouTube. And if you have a question for Jason or David, send us a video. You can do that at 37signals.com/podcast question. We might just answer it and have you with us on the show.